Roseanne Barr is my sister in comedy, and she's my universal sister. And what I won't do, Sam, is throw her away for making a mistake. We've all said and done things, baby, that we wish we could take back and swallow and say, oh, but when you're in the public eye, you can't, and it's out there. But to put the title of racist on her, I can only share my experience with Roseanne. I remember when I had the Monique show, and there were big, major black superstar talent that had white representatives. And they told their talent, that show is too black, and we really don't want you to go on there. But there was a white woman named Roseanne Barr that showed up for me when people that looked like me. Now, I want to thank all the talent that came on the Monique show, because there were some beautiful people that sat on that couch. But I remember when we were going after the big names, and it was, oh, we got to get back to you. And y'all know who you saw and who you didn't see on that show.
Right.
But that woman, when we called, it wasn't a question. And she came and she sat on that sofa, and they didn't hear the conversation when the cameras wasn't rolling. And that woman was giving me some beautiful words. And she said, Monique, I'm going to tell you right now, baby, they're going to consider you difficult. They're going to call you the B word, because you're a woman who won't lay down and take that foolishness. So what I would ask is, yes, my sister made a mistake, and she said something that I know she wished she could take back. But what I would ask is that we don't throw her away.
Monique and Roseanne have been friends for over 20 years. They're both comedians, and I think Monique understands where Roseanne was coming from. She's not a racist, she just told a bad joke. And being a comedian is all about being controversial. This is why you see so many comedians being controversial. I think I think Roseanne is being singled out because she's a conservative, because she's become a Trump supporter. Because there's plenty of comedians in Hollywood that have told the same jokes that Roseanne have told, and nobody's asking for them to be fired. Nobody's asking for them for their shows to be canceled. And I think Monique is seeing that Roseanne is being blacklisted the same way she was blacklisted. And when Hollywood was coming out against Monique, Roseanne defended Monique. And now that she sees Roseanne is going through the same thing that she went through, Monique is coming out and defending Roseanne. So a lot of people are not putting this in the proper context. I think people are blowing this out of proportion. I think people are over-exaggerating. And this is the problem I have with people on the left and people on social media. Just because someone tells a bad joke doesn't make them racist. Roseanne has donated millions of dollars to black civil rights organizations. She's done plenty of charity work in the black community. Roseanne's comments weren't even about black people. Valerie Jarrett is not black. Valerie Jarrett is not a black woman. It blows me away how the media wants to classify every person of color as being black. Valerie Jarrett is Middle Eastern. She's Iranian. She's not a black woman. So when I see people on social media saying Roseanne made fun of black women when she didn't make fun of black women. She said if Osama bin Laden and the Planet of the Apes had a baby, it would look like Valerie Jarrett. She thought Valerie Jarrett is a white woman. That's what she thought. Her comments had nothing to do with black people whatsoever. But you have people on social media that are saying she was making fun of black people when the joke had nothing to do with black people. I've said this many times before. Black people need to stop claiming every person of color as being black. Just because a person has color to them doesn't make them black. There's more than just black and white. There's more than two races on this planet. And the mainstream media goes along with this ridiculous talking point. And there's a huge double standard. Because Bill Moore has told jokes about black people. Plenty of liberal comedians have told jokes about black people, but there's no outrage. There's nobody asking for Bill Moore's show to be canceled. I remember when Bill Moore told jokes about slavery, he told jokes about house niggas, and most liberals defended his joke. But when Roseanne tells a joke about a Middle Eastern person who's not black, they're outraged. They want her show to be canceled. There's a huge double standard here. It amazes me how people on the left have a selective outrage. It's almost like they're only outraged by something when it's on the right, but when it's on the left, they want to give it a pass. I believe there's racism in both parties. There's racism on both sides. But many black liberals only want to call out the racism on the right. But when the racism happens on the left, they want to completely ignore it and shove it under the rug. The fact that any black person that disagrees with liberals is called a coon, the fact that any black person that disagrees with liberals is called a house nigga, is called a coon, is called an Uncle Tom, shows that there's racism on the left. And that racism on the left needs to be called out. It shouldn't be ignored. It shouldn't be shoved under the rug. This is why I can't take liberals seriously when they say they're against racism. Liberals are always saying they're against racism, they're against racism. But as soon as a person of color disagrees with them, the first thing they say is that he's a coon. He's a coon. He's a sellout. It amazes me how a lot of people on the left never realize their own hypocrisy. It amazes me how a lot of people never realize their own hypocrisy. I think if we're going to condemn racism, then we need to condemn it on both sides. This is the problem I have with the mainstream media. If Bill Moore's show is not going to be canceled, then why is Roseanne's show canceled? Why is Tim Allen's show canceled? This is the double standard in the mainstream media. This is the double standard in liberal Hollywood. Lisa Lampanelli has told jokes about black people for years. And most of her jokes are about black men. Most of her jokes are stereotypical jokes about black men specifically. But none of her shows have ever been canceled. No one in the liberal media has ever criticized Lisa Lampanelli. The reason why Lisa Lampanelli and Bill Moore are allowed to get away with this is because they're liberal. When you're liberal, you get a free pass. When you're conservative, you have to be politically correct. And this is why I'm against political correctness. Because the only people who are forced to follow political correctness are people on the right. The only people who are forced to say everything in a polite way are people on the right. If you're on the left, you can be as raunchy as you want to be. You can tell jokes about black men. You can say black men ain't shit. Black men ain't. You can tell all types of jokes about black people if you're on the left. This is why I'm just sick and tired of the double standards. If we're gonna put up standards that people should follow, then those standards should be for both sides. And it shouldn't just be for one side and one side only. So we need to stop the double standards. Let's stop singling out Roseanne like she's the only person that's ever done this. And let's stop being hypocrites. A lot of people have different opinions about this topic. Leave a comment, rate and subscribe.